What's up, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and none of the above? This is DL returning you with KSL Season 7 content. We have the Clodsire Division Grand Finals between two of my good pals, Anycookiecam, coach of the MK Don fans, and Scawill, coach of the Scawill Excadrill. So thankfully, their rosters are pretty conveniently located on the dock here. So you got Cam rocking the roster, Iron Valiant, Terra Regieleki, Lando T, Pex, Decidueye, Fori, Gudra, T-Tar, Typhlosion, and Persian. Scawill got the classic archetype Big 6+ Ditto. Meowscarada, Terratorn T, Walking Wake, Iron Shreds, Hisuian Zoroark, Azumarill, Ditto, Frostmoth, Pikachu, and Toxicroak. So looking at the matchup here, Cam has historically had a difficult time dealing with physically offensive ground types. His team has a lot of special bulk, a lot of good specialty defensive Pokemon with things like Toxapex, Decidueye, Gudra, even Tyranitar. On the physical side, his ground resist being Landorus T and Decidueye leaves him extremely vulnerable to any ground type with ice coverage. Thankfully, this is an Iron Treads and not a Great Tusk. But yeah, still, knockoff hits both these Pokemon quite well. Lando T, no recovery outside of leftovers, and Decidueye obviously weak to Dark. So I definitely think an offensive Iron Treads could put in a lot of work here. So I think Iron Valiant matches up rather well into Scawill's team. Ditto, unable to copy the boost from Booster Energy or Quark Drive. The Booster Energy activating the Quark Drive. Scawill's fair resists are rather limited. It is solely the Iron Treads because he has no fire type and his poison type is Toxicroak. Treads not packing the best for def and obviously weak to fighting moves. So I think that a specially offensive Iron Treads can definitely just run through Scawill's team. Potentially a physically offensive one as well to try to circumvent potential things like Assault Vest, Tornado Styrian, for example. And yeah, it being a 4x Dark Resist is very nice for resisting Meowscarada, Sucker Punch. However, a downside potentially to a special set would be, a physical set would be Close Combat, lowering its defenses, putting it in range of something like Azumarill, Aqua Jet. In terms of his other threats, so Scawill's team is pretty loaded in the speed department. He's got a lot of Pokemon over 100 base speed, literally all 5 of these. So it can definitely overwhelm Cam's slightly slower team. As only Pokemon over 100 speed that are under 115 are, it's Typhlosion and Persian, I guess, is 115. So he's got 2 big speedsters in Valiant and Alecki. Definitely expect both of them to come, but it's a little more difficult for things like an offensive Landorus T or an offensive Decidueye or Gudra and such to get work done. These Pokemon will need a lot of bulk to really function and be able to survive some hits. I do think we can see T-Tar come here, a good type matchup into things like the Torn T, barring Terra, and the Hisuian Zoroark. Managing to resist both stabs from it is quite nice, though obviously would prefer not to take something like a Will-O-Wisp from the Hisuian Zoroark. So if we see Zoroark, I think it should definitely be bringing Wisp and be something of a utility attacker. So yeah, Cam does have good special walls like the T-Tar, the Gudra, the Pex, things of that nature. In terms of the Typhlosion, I don't think Typhlosion should come. Slower than all these dudes. There's some really good fire resist on this team as well. Things like Wake and Azumarill. And yeah, I think Lando T is pressure to come as a defensive switch into things like the Treads, but Flower Trick always critting can circumvent the Intimidate ability from Lando T, so that's rather unfortunate. I think we'll probably see a physically defensive Toxapex as a means to deal with Meowscarada and Azumarill. Should definitely be packing Haze, though a Belly Drum Azumarill I think actually looks quite scary for Cam's team, because his water resist being Pex, which is slower, so it'll just die to like +6 knockoff. Puts him down to Decidueye and Gudra as his faster water resist that won't die to +6 Aqua Jet. So that's pretty scary. So I think a Belly Drum Azumarill is looking like a really good win con for Scawill in this matchup. I don't think Frostmoth has much of a chance doing much for him. Croak has not come all season. I could see Croak coming because it's very good into Toxapex, on account of being immune to poison, immune to toxic rather. and having dry skin, making it also immune to water moves. So Toxicroak could potentially abuse something like a Toxapex. Maybe run something like a Sucker Punch or Priority to hit the Landorus T. Could even run Ice Punch. So I think Toxicroak could be a rather sleeper pick here. And it hits everything else rather hard on this team, even resisting things like Bug and Fighting, which would be pretty common moves on Fortress. Fortress would have to bring Steel Stab to hit that. So I think this could potentially be a Toxicroak debut game. In terms of the Walking Wake, very threatening to a lot of potentially Spadefmons on Cam's team, like the T-Tar and the Goodra. Not the best type matchup into Toxapex, but Pex is kind of pressured into a physically defensive role, potentially. So I could definitely see Walking Wake putting in a lot of work here. However, a choice set might be a little dicey, because if you even kill Pex with like Specs Draco, giving Valiant a free turn to set up could be devastating. In terms of what Terra Reggie might run here, we've seen Pups run a Terra Fighting Jolteon before to deal with Scawill's team, as it hits both the grass and the ground for super effective damage. But we did see Scawill try to clap back with that once with a Terra Ground Tornadus T, being neutral to fighting and threatening the electric type with either super effective Terra Blast Ground if it stays electric, or super effective Flying Stab if it turns into a fighting type. So we'll see if Cam adapts to that potentially. I'll be very curious to see what his Terra type is on Reggie. And I think that is most everything covered. Let's go ahead and go to team preview. We got Cam here versus Scawill. Cam bringing roster Regieleki, Iron Valiant, Toxapex, Persian, Landorus T, and the Typhlosion does come. And Scawill benches the Toxicroak. Hurts my heart. Toxicroak benched all season, but he brings the Pikachu, the people's champion. He brings Meowscarada, Azumarill, Torn T, Iron Treads, and the Ditto. Alright, and this is Terra preview, so let's go ahead and see what the Terra types are. So it is a Terra Ground Torn T, as we were just discussing. And on Cam's side is Terra Fire Regieleki. So interesting, Fire also hitting both the Treads and the Meowscarada for super effective damage. But this probably is an indication that it would be a Heavy Duty Boots Regieleki, because Fire obviously is weak to Stealth Rock. Alright. We see the Azumarill lead against Typhlosion. So the Azumarill lead perhaps indicates that it is not a Belly Drum set, but looking at Cam's team, if he gets a Belly Drum off, it might just be over, because Reggie will die, Valiant will die, Lando will die, Persian will die. All these will die to Aqua Jet, so will Typhlosion. And Azumarill should be faster than Toxapex, unless it's like Scarf Haze, which would be kind of heat if we do see that. But I guess Azumarill could just Belly Drum again. Cam would probably just have to be spamming Haze. That would be interesting. But usually lead Azumarill is Choice Band. That's the most common item, I'd say, when you see Azumarill in the lead. Though obviously it could potentially be Assault Vest in this game as well. But I think Belly Drum looked the most scary. But leading it usually, I'd say, is usually Choice Band. So we see the Pex go straight into the Typhlosion goes straight into Pex as Liquidation does 19%. We see Black Sludge on the Pex as Azumarill switches out into Treads on the Toxic. Nice, so this might be a Rocks Up moment. I expect this to be a Rocks Up moment. So we do see Lando come in on the knockoff. So yeah, as I said, this is kind of needed to deal with physical ground types on Cam's team. Lando's kind of locked into that role. So it loses its Choice Scarf. So that's interesting information that Landorus T was bringing Choice Scarf, potentially trying to surprise the Meowscarada with the Scarf U-turn, maybe give it an ability to revenge kill Treads, or maybe a scary Pikachu. But I'm not sure how much work this would be able to do here, especially with things like Torn and Ditto, able to switch in pretty comfortably on Lando. But yeah, the Scarf is gone. And I lied. Treads actually does get Ice Spinner. I did not know that. And yeah, Treads guaranteeing that it's faster after the knockoff, getting rid of the Scarf and getting the kill on Lando. Yeah, there's no more ground resist here. So Scawill in a very commanding position, I'd say. So Typhlosion is in. Typhlosion is now. This is probably Choice Scarf, based off the fact they brought it out here. Scawill goes into Azumarill, which takes 23, makes me think it is in fact Assault Vest Azumarill. And yeah, I don't think banded damage on this Toxapex either, so I do think it is AV Azu. If you see an intelligent double into, interesting doubles actually, intelligent double into the Valiant, predicting him to switch into the Iron Treads, but instead he gets a Pikachu. We must presume Pikachu is holding a Light Ball. I also imagine Iron Valiant OHKOs it, and is not Booster Energy Valiant. Potentially a Choice Specs does look rather devastating in this matchup. You see they switch back into Azumarill, and it is a physical or perhaps mixed, and it does remove the Assault Vest. Back into Pex on the Azumarill. I think Scawill needs to try to pull the trigger on one of these Pex switches and get some pressure by doubling on the Pex. Yeah, he shows the Play Rough, and here comes the Pikachu. In comes the Persian. Torn in on the Persian. Big Technician boosted, Normal Gem boosted Fake Out. Does 38. The Torn is not Rocky Helmet. Tears into a Ground type and goes for a nasty plot. As you see, Thief. And he thieves the Heavy Duty Boots, but this is now a +2 Torn. This just goes for the Terra Blast, which would have blown back Toxapex, which is Cam's premier special wall on this team. Also, this Terra Blast would have covered Tyranitar as the Spadefmon. So yeah, that was basically claiming a KO. So yeah, Persian is gone. And here comes the probably Scarf Typhlosion. Without the Assault Vest, this should be a 2KO on Azumarill, but it could get really good chip with Aqua Jet. Cam trying to avoid that to maintain the 150 base power on Eruption. Yup. And just Sludge Bombs, fishing for a poison on Tornadus, and he gets it. See, back into the Pikachu once again on the Pex on a Recover. Pikachu gets it off a big T-Bolt, 69%, nice. Sludge Bomb Poison, even nicer. As Pex actually ends up at a higher HP after that turn. But the Pex goes down. Interesting. Cam could maybe have tried to preserve Toxapex and pivoted into Regieleki there. Regieleki, obviously immune to paralysis, which will be its biggest fear from Pikachu. Though I guess maybe he wants to preserve HP on that in order to stay out of priority move range from things like Meowscarada and Azumarill. So here comes the Aleki. She goes for the Terrafire Terra Blast, would have covered most switch-ins. So here comes Azu. Now that he's a fire type, he is weak to Aqua Jet, but he's got the tech. He has the extreme speed to out priority the Aqua Jet and knock out the Azumarill. So Azu goes down, and now this Scarf Typhlosion looks very, very strong, especially... Actually, it's going to be really interesting which ability it has between Blaze and Flash Fire, because the Ditto obviously will copy whichever ability it has. I imagine he's Blaze in order to not be hardwalled by Ditto, but that's a tough call for Scawill to make, to hard switch his Ditto in on the Typhlosion. But I think we will see some Typhlosion on Typhlosion action at some point here. So I assume the Tornadus will probably be the Pokemon that comes out here. No, it is Ditto. So we got a Scarf Ditto. Oh yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense here. Because the, Lando's gone and this is no longer an electric type. So just electric move should do a lot of damage. As he just straight up OHKOs this Aleki. And here comes the Valiant, lives the Thunderbolt. Goes for close combat, knocks out the Ditto. Oh! This is scary. This is very scary for Scawill, because that was the only thing that looks like it took a hit from Typhlosion. So I think what he's going to need to do is Sucker Punch the Typhlosion to weaken the Eruption. But even a Blaze range Flamethrower could be devastating here. Obviously we'll OHKO things like the Meowscarada and the Iron Treads. It'll be a matter of keeping the Tornadus in range and healthy enough to eat it. So it is a nasty plot Tornadus. So it is poisoned. It's at 42%, so after Regenerator, it'll be at 75. is Scarf Typhlosion, we presume, not Specs. So I think Torn is healthy enough to potentially live a Flamethrower from this Typhlosion. I don't think it would live an Eruption. So see, the Meowscarada comes out here and shows that it is... no, Meowscarada is naturally faster. It locks itself into Play Rough with the Protean. So if he is a choice set, Typhlosion now resists Play Rough, so that's pretty huge. I guess it would have resisted a Grass move as well. I imagine that at +1, the knockoff could have killed. So I feel like that would have been the optimal move to click. It would be to click knockoff there. I guess he is no longer weak to fire, but this is probably still going to do a lot. But now the Typhlosion being last mon alive here does mean that it would not be able to change moves between Eruption and Flamethrower. So if this Meowscarada gets chipped with Sucker Punch and weakens Eruption, I think the Tornadus will be able to live. So we'll see if Cam elects to lock into Eruption or Flamethrower, or potentially Fire Blast here. But if he's Fire Blast, I think a Blaze Fire Blast would definitely OHKO this Torn. So that could be interesting. As he dodges Play Rough, goes for the Flamethrower, predicting him to actually take the damage and lose the base power on Eruption. But he does manage to preserve some HP here. But I think Torn will probably be able to kill this regardless after. So the Meowscarada lives because it's a Fairy type now. But yeah, he actually is able to preserve some HP on account of dodging that Play Rough. Yeah, I don't think it'll matter because both these guys would OHKO it. And he's not erupting. So yeah, it does 42%. So in comes the Torn, so it's 75%. This is not in Blaze range. I think it'll be OHKO'd. Yeah, as the Terra Blast does, Flamethrower does 54, and Terra Blast OHKOs. I doubt that crit mattered. And that will do it for the Clodsire Division Finals in the Kirby Street League Season 7. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, if you're watching, and thank you to all the coaches that participated this season. And a huge congratulations to Scawill. I think of all the players, he definitely showed the most improvement throughout the season, and I think all of his hard work and dedication have paid off here. Big shout out to Scawill and the Scawill Escadrille. Hope to see you next season in the Kirby Street League. Take care. Bye.